Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Caged In podcast. I'm your host Petros and this is a weekly podcast where I am watching every single Nicolas Cage film. That's what we'll be doing for the first season, and then after that we'll move on to another actor who I haven't decided who that's going to be yet. So you'll have to just listen on throughout all these. Yeah, I don't want to. I've committed on Nicolas Cage. Like, there's so much to go through that I don't want to have to think about where we're going to move on from here until a lot later on. But this week we will be looking at Guarding Tess from 1994. And like many of the films before this and many of the films to come, I know nothing about this one, which is perfect because I live by a couple of rules on this podcast. And one of those rules is no expectations. So going into these films, I'm trying to know as little as possible if I don't know anything about them already. There's obviously a few things I can't avoid just from living my life, and some of these films I've seen before, but since taking on this task I've refused to watch any later Nicolas Cage films. And I'm not watching any trailers, not looking at any scores I'll look at the end. I go on about every week. I'm going to see if my scores match those of scores I find on the internet, and see if I'm a complete fucking idiot. And, do you know what? Probably will find out that I am. I often toy with the idea of just packing in this podcast because, what are you doing? Are you benefiting the world in any way? Probably not, but it's funny, isn't it? It's real funny, so I'm going to do it anyway. Fuck it. And the other rule is no distractions. So I will turn my phone off, pretty much have no contact with the outside world. I'm pretty much insular in this Nicolas Cage bubble, and that's the way I'm going to stay until after the film. After the film, I do a little bit of looking online, just see if there's anything I can find to add to talk about the film. I always say that I'm going to do that. I always forget. I always say on this podcast as well that I'm going to share stuff on social media that it's all about. But because these podcasts are kind of just my reactions afterwards and stuff like that are literally there. They're going from notes, but they're literally, it's me just spitballing. None of this is scripted. It is just what the fuck dribbles out of my mouth for the moment that I start recording, and I kind of like that. I'm going to keep it that way. If you've never listened before, it's going to be fun. If you're here because you like Guarding Tess, always go back to some previous episodes. There's some fucking great films. I really recommend, film-wise and episode-wise, I really recommend Deadfall, which was episode, was that 17 maybe, or 18? Oh god, I think it was 18. There's loads. Watch Rumblefish. That was episode 2, and Rumblefish is a fucking great film. Episode 8 as well, Peggy Sue Got Married. Peggy Sue Got Married is a fantastic film. I really enjoyed that. Sorry about that noise as well. My upstairs neighbours are cleaning their carpets, so if you hear a hum, I think I don't know if I can just hear it through these headphones or I can hear it just in real life. Sorry about that. It's probably not the best for a podcast, but I've got to record this because it's the only free time I have this week to do so. So I'm going to get my feet up, turn my phone off, and get raging with a Cajun. Feels like I've been awake for days. Watch a film starring Nicolas Cage. Could be shit or it could be fun. Valley Girl face off an army of one. Deadfall Cornell, Lord of War, The Wicker Man, Trespass, and so many more. Know how it starts, I don't know how it ends. The first 10 are solo, then it's me and some friends. No distractions, no expectations. Over the weeks, hear my frustrations. I guess the podcast is about to begin. I'm your host, Petros +Syllabus, and I'm caged in. And we're back. I actually watched this film yesterday. I gave it a day to ruminate, to percolate, just really get my thoughts. I did a little bit of research after watching this one as well. Kind of looked at the director. Still haven't looked at the scores. So this is a 1994 film. As I said in the intro, it's Guarding Tess. It's the story of a reluctant special agent who has an assignment from hell guarding the ex-president's wife. The old president has died, and his detail is to look after the ex-president's wife, who is just a tyrant. She kind of has them doing all sorts of stuff that really, as a special agent, you don't think he should be doing. It's a lot of getting a breakfast, like going to play golf out in the snow, goddammit. Yeah, he kind of wanted a bit more White House down. He's kind of got a bit of blue rinse down. That's kind of where he's at. And yeah, Cage. Right, how does this film fucking start? It starts with our main man, Nic Cage, who plays a character called Doug Chesnick in this film, Special Agent Doug Chesnick. He arrives at a house, he delivers breakfast to Tess, and then leaves. He has a Bloody Mary on the plane, and he's in Washington. He has come to see the head of the Secret Services and wants to... His assignment, for what he knows, is over. He's like, thank God for that. I don't have to guard this woman anymore. And he's like, I want something a bit more. Like, you know what I mean? I'm guarding the president. I could be doing some Gerard Butler shit. He could be doing some Olympus has fallen stuff. Like, if the president's going to get attacked, I'm going to be there. He wants to be John McClane. He wants to be. Do you know what I mean? Steven Seagal. He wants to Steven Seagal it, but that's not what he's getting. The head of the Secret Service says to him, I've got a personal favour to ask you from the president. The president said, can you stay on for another term, which will be 3 years, guarding Tess? And he's like, oh, fuck. Like, and he's like, I'll give you a few moments to think about it. Which pretty much, you know from that he's got to do it. It's like the president wants him to do it. He begrudgingly goes back. Literally, he's on the next flight. He gets back, and everyone's like, what are you doing back so soon? We thought you were gone. We thought that was it. You were moving on to bigger, to better things. And then he goes in and sees Tess, and she is like, it's real frosty between them. He doesn't want to be there, and he kind of lets her know that. He's like, I wanted to move on. Like, I'm back here because you want me to be here. And he takes, before he goes up, he takes the head of her rose and puts it in his lapel. And she makes a point of that. She's like, give me my rose, give me the head of my rose back. I want it back. And he's out. He's like, fuck this bitch. He's off. He's in the Secret Service quarters of all the rest of the guys. And she sets off the alarm, which is obviously there for, I don't know, if shit goes down. And she kind of uses it willy-nilly as the room service call for the Secret Service agents to kind of do her bidding for her, do whatever she wants when she wants. And she says to them, I want to play golf. Like, can you have the car ready in half an hour? on the course. And they're like, it's pretty cold outside. She's like, no, we're going anyway. It's kind of like, you kind of telling scene at a golf course. You can kind of, she's very demanding, and she hits her ball into the shrubbery, and Doug says to her, like, she's like, go get my ball. And he's like, I'm literally going to do my job by the book now. You know I don't want to be here. If you want your ball, you go get it. Like, this is not my job as a Secret Service agent. Yeah, and he, like, this is the first moment in the film we kind of see Cage lose it. He loses his mind a fair few times. Like, it's like you can't cage him. You can't, like, that wild man will come out in any film he does. It could be, I don't know, it could be the most somber art house dramatic film, and he would probably still find a way to fly off the handle. Then he is in a diner with all the rest of the service, so Secret Service guys kind of showing off, being like, put her in her place, didn't I? Bloody look at me. I told her what for. I told her, you want your bloody ball, you go get it, love. And then he gets a phone call on the phone in the diner, and it is actually the president who says, I heard there's a bit of an issue with a rose. You're ripping up roses in front of Tess. Like, I'm not happy about this. So I've got to call you again over this minor bullshit. I'm not going to be happy. You're going to be guarding my dog. So he is pretty much she's got him by the balls. He knows it. She knows it. Then, like, yeah, not really. I don't know. Not a lot really much happens in this film. They head off to an opera. And she's been difficult for the sake of it, because she knows she's got him where she wants him, and she won't sit. There's I didn't know this, but in like secret servicing, if that's what you call it, there is set places you have to sit in a car as you're protecting someone, and you always have to sit behind the passenger seat, so the driver and the Secret Service agent can both see you. She refuses to do so, and it's kind of like them trying to play each other. Like, he's like, well, we're not moving this car until you sit in the right seat. The guys in the car behind are like, let's just go. Like, and then he kind of like, she eventually sits in the right seat, and they head off to the opera. You get the tone of this film's pretty weird. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I read online it says it's a comedy, but I don't know. It's not that funny. But yeah, it's like a drama with like elements. The guy who directed it, I think he wrote it as well. 2 seconds. The guy who wrote it, his name is Hugh Wilson, and yes, he also wrote this film with Peter Tokarev, and he has a writing credit on Police Academy, which if you have seen those films, check out the Bitter End podcast. I think it's their season 5 is Police Academy, and it is great. But yeah, and we also have the actor who plays Tackleberry from Police Academy is also in this film. So, like, I don't know, seeing someone like that, you think it's going to be a lot more funnier than it actually is. But yeah, you kind of like, there's a moment when they're driving to the opera where they're playing opera in the car that Nicolas Cage and Shirley MacLaine's character Tess are in, whereas the guys in the following car are kind of playing rock and roll, having a bloody good time. And then, yeah, we get to the opera. She falls asleep. He tries to wake her up. She kind of like lets out like a like gasp as she wakes up, and everyone in the opera looks around to look at her. And she has a go at him and says like, I'm so embarrassed, like, that's it, we're not staying here tonight, it's going to stay here. but you've bloody ruined it. Let's just go home. But as they come out the opera into the foyer, everybody bloody loves her. They're like, want signatures. Like, I don't know. You kind of see in this that Doug takes his job way too seriously, because a lady is reaching into a bag to get a pen, and he kind of grabs her by the arm, like, "Whoa, what you got in the bag?" And she's like, "I just wanted an autograph." He's like, "I take this card. I'll get you a signed photo. Okay, send some postage, send a signed envelope to this address, and we'll get it back to you. Don't worry." So yeah, they end up staying the night, and then the next day at a gas station, they're all like kind of filling up on food and stuff like that, filling up the cars, and Tess does a runner with the driver Earl. She says, "That's it, come on Earl, let's bolt out of here." They drive off for ages. They don't know what to do. The Secret Service guys end up calling the local police, who find it hilarious. Like, oh, a load of Secret Service agents have managed to lose the person they're looking after because you're all bloody idiots. He's got them on speakerphone, like a load of fat blokes. Typical portrait. Like, if Chief Wiggum was a real person, you proper like post like real cartoon image of cops. There's a whole fucking precinct of them. They're all fat. They're all sipping down coffee and shoveling in donuts like there's no fucking tomorrow. She eventually turns up, and Doug is not happy at all. He grabs Earl, the driver, and says, "That's it, I'm going to get you fired." And he's probably going to swear. That's me. I can't help it but swear, guys, sorry. He's like, "That's it, Earl, you fucking piece of shit. You're getting fired." And he's like, "You can't fire me. I'm employed by Tess." He's like, "No, you're employed by Tess through us. So fucking, that's it. You're going to be out, you bloody scoundrel." And then he storms into Tess's room and has an argument with her and says, like, I don't know, like, you guys just follow me all the time. He's like, "That is our job. That's what we're supposed to do. You know, at any moment you can have the Secret Service called off. Like, you don't have to have us here." So she does. The next day, she's like, "That's it. Don't want you guys here." And Cage is ready to go. He's like, "That's it, I'm going back to Washington. Maybe now my big moment in the sun will come. I will become the bodyguard to the president. I will become the Gerard Butler that I know is in my heart. I will become the Channing Tatum I know I am." Yeah, Doug then gets another phone call from El Presidente saying, "I've heard she's got rid of the Secret Service. We can't be having that. It's not me who wants it. I know she's a crone. You know she's a crone. It's the public. They love her. They will not feel happy unless they know she is looked after. What if someone attacks her in the night?" Like, it's her choice. The Secret Service guys then follow her. They're kind of trying to win her back. They follow her to the hospital. Doug gets out of the car and tries to speak to her. She's like, "Just leave me alone." At the hospital as well, there is something that was mentioned when the first meeting that Cage has with Tess, when he first arrives back, and she says, as a bit of a joke, she says, "So I got three," like, she kind of lists off three things. She's like, one of them's true. She's like, "I've got an inoperable brain tumor. I don't know. You're free to leave at any, or like, yeah, I don't want you here. You could just leave. You can have a whale of a time, or I want to go golf." And he's like, "Well, when are we going golf then?" But it turns out, you kind of see, this is another moment where it's like, it's not really a comedy, it's a bit more of a drama, is because in the hospital you see her getting CAT scans, and get scans of her brain, and you see that she does have a tumour. So yeah, but she never mentions it to any of the Secret Service guys. It's kind of kept on the hush hush, and kind of like, this is the moment in the film I started to sympathise with her, that kind of she likes having these people around as much as you know, they're almost like a family to her. She argues with them, she kind of uses and abuses them, but she likes to have them around. Then her son comes, who is a bit of a scumbag, bit of a tycoon of industry type. Pointing no fingers, Donald Trump. Sorry. Yeah, like that kind of slimy guy, and he's like, "Oh, I've got this great retirement complex I want to build." Which, when this happened, it just reminded me. All I could think when I saw this on screen was Del Boca Vista from Seinfeld. I know I mentioned Seinfeld a lot in this show, but I really like Seinfeld. Probably should have done a Seinfeld podcast. Well, there's plenty of them out there. Then again, there's plenty of Nicolas Cage podcasts out there. But what the fuck we're gonna do? We've committed, guys. We're 20 episodes in. We're gonna get to the fucking end, whether you like it or not. Yeah, and he's like, I've got this idea, like, but one thing we need for financing is an endorsement from someone like you, someone the public trust. You're an older lady. All we need to do is write a letter. And she looks offended. She's like, no, I'm not going to do this. Like, rightly so. She doesn't want her name, like, associated with just this quick, rich scheme that her son has, and good on her. He then, like, kind of storms out, smokes a ciggy, and is like, fuck's sake. And then she watches, I don't know if this is really weird, but it's kind of like a VHS compilation of news footage and of her dead husband, and, like, in a lot of the footage, see Doug's there, so obviously he's been with them a long time. He's been there since they were, since her husband was the president, and there's footage of her husband's funeral, and Doug's looking real sad, and it's kind of, this is the moment, it's like, maybe he's not such a bad guy, like, maybe, like, obviously he wants to progress in his career, but yeah, you know what, like, maybe I do like him, like, he's a nice guy. So she goes out to kind of reconcile with him. He's sat in his car, like, with a fucking, like, a proper big pot of coffee. Like, I'm talking, like, the type, like a proper filtered jug that you kind of see in, like, old school American diners, you know, like, the lady's like, oh, you want a top up of your coffee? Like, that type of thing, yeah. And he's got one of those, and, like, I don't know how he's powering it. I'm guessing he's got some type of, like, plug system that goes into the cigarette lighter. And she startles him, and he pours hot, boiling coffee all over himself, which for me was a standout moment. It was almost like a slapstick, kind of like, I don't know, kind of felt like a gag that our old man Hugh Wilson had laying over from the Police Academy films that he couldn't manage to fucking shoehorn in at some point, but managed to shoehorn it in this film. She actually then invites him in for a coffee, which is a bit of a like joke, seeing he is covered in coffee. They end up just having a drink. She's like, well, sometimes I like to get pissed up. I like to booze it. And they end up discussing the past, and she lets on that her husband had cheated on her, and she's like, bet you didn't think I knew that. Like, you obviously know that you know to him and stuff like that. And she's like, let's get out of here. Let's go to a bar. They're not going to a real dive bar, and she's like, let's talk about you, and find out that he had, like, a really short marriage that lasted for about 7 months, and kind of get, like, this moment you get a bit of insight into him. He's a very proud man, like, he's like, how do you know that? Did you read my file? And she's like, no, my husband told me. Like, I'm not the type of person to read someone's file. I would like to know them into like an interpersonal way, like not just read up about them. And yeah, you find out he's quite proud because he's like, I don't tell people because I'm kind of ashamed that I was married for such a little time. And she questions him like, why didn't it last that long? He's like, well, I was the last one to realise, like everyone else realised that she wasn't the right woman apart from me. Sounds like she was a bit of a bitch. This lovely chat then prompts her to get the Secret Service back in business. They're once again looking after her. She is in their wonderful hands. She is in their care. And it's all going to be good. And it's followed with some good news that the president is coming to visit Somersville, Ohio. So, and they're all then getting ready. They're going to spring into action, do what they do best. Kind of get a montage of the Secret Service agents like getting all their shit together. Tess is excited. She's getting stuff done. There's like a funny scene in a grocery shop where like they're all kind of man in the place, like speaking over the radios, getting a price check on some peas. She's not interested. She manages to lose the Secret Service agents in there. She's kind of playing. It's kind of jovial. It's fun now. Sorry about that. My phone decided to just start playing a podcast. But yeah, so she's kind of playing with them. Everyone seems in good spirits. She's getting her hair done. She's excited. She's like dyes it to her. She's going grey. She dyes it back to her more natural brown. She feels young. She feels vibrant. It is at this moment that a fax comes through and it's bad news. The president is going to cancel. He's not going to visit. Instead, he's sending someone like Secretary of Defense, someone lower down, some schmuck, some lady schmuck. No one really cares about. And we kind of get the visit. She's having a laugh. She's having a joke. And then next thing we get is she says she wants to go for a picnic in the cold. She wants the only person to be there is Doug, and so they drive out in the middle, like by a lake. She's got a table up. She's sat there, and she ends up falling asleep. And Doug carries her into the car, and like goes to get the chair, and Earl, the driver, fucking bombs it off. And you think, oh, maybe she's just playing another game again. But no, she is not. Earl has fucking kidnapped her. What? Yeah, they do not come back. It is not a game. And all of a sudden, all the big dicks are coming in. The CIA, the FBI. They're all there. And one guy says to Doug, like, you call yourself a Secret Service agent. 7 of you couldn't look after the lady you're supposed to look after. You guys disgust me. Some real fucking slick prick FBI agent coming in, fucking shooting his mouth off. And then we kind of get the information that there's a ransom for $15 million to get her back. And one of the agents kind of is telling all the Secret Service agents, we're going to have to let you go. We're going to step in now. It's the FBI's jurisdiction. You guys can kind of go home. And he explains how there is a crescent burn on Earl's neck, and they found a needle with kind of horse tranquilizer and stuff like that. It's knocked him out for hours, and he's laid up in hospital. And he says he reckons that it's some type of Middle Eastern gang. This is their sign. They reckon it's like, I don't know, 1994. It's probably like some Iraq war shit, some George Bush-esque bullshit that they're trying to tap in on. But this gets Doug thinking when he's driving away with one of the guys, and he gets a cigarette and he uses the lighter in the car, and he has a eureka moment, and he's like, I fucking know what it is. And then he goes to the hospital with the head of the FBI, and they're talking to Earl. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Like, oh, let me have a look at that burn. And then Earl starts going, oh, why are you questioning me? It's Doug you should be questioning. He's the one who hates her. And then obviously, from an outsider's perspective, it can look like Doug is very suspicious, because obviously him and Tess have a very tempestuous relationship. They're always at loggerheads. But this is when the film takes a turn for the fucking weird, because Doug ends up grabbing Earl, the driver, points a gun in his face, and then shoots off one of his toes. And he's like, unless you give me information, I will shoot off all your toes. He eventually does. He confesses and says that his sister and her husband had a plan to kidnap Tess, and they're holding her up in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and it was all their idea. He had nothing to do with it, and obviously him getting drugged was to throw off the scent that he wouldn't be involved, the crafty little bastard. Then we get a real dramatic scene of the FBI, like kind of spotlights going on. They raid this little shack where his sister and brother-in-law live, and they take them to where they have put Tess, and they've buried her inside a barn in a box with just a tube for some air. And the Secret Service guys that worked for her insist on digging her up. It's a bit weird. Obviously, they had guys employed for that, but they're like, no, we want to do it. They get down to her, and then they kind of stretch her out and put her on a helicopter with big dick FBI and CIA guys inside the helicopter. They're all there like patting each other on the back, thinking they're big shit. And Tess wakes up and says, I want my boys. I want my Secret Service boys. And then the word gets through. It's like, hey, Doug Chesnick. Everyone's like, where's Doug Chesnick? The word gets out. He's like, oh, I'm Doug Chesnick. Runs back, and she's like, yeah, we're sorry. Come on, FBI guys, CIA guys, gotta get the fuck out. And then they have like this tender moment on the flight where she kind of like, oh, you got to fire a gun. He's like, maybe not really. Kind of figured out, well, she's like, yeah, did you kill someone when you shot him? Like, no, not really. I shot a guy's toe off. Just thinking about that idea of, yeah, he kind of wanted big action. He wanted Nakatomi Tower. Instead, he's shooting off a guy's toe in the hospital. And then we get the next scene is Tess is in hospital, and she's better now. It's time for her to go home. She's got her Secret Service guys back in tow. No pun intended there. And she has a phone call with the president and says, I want Doug looked after because he has saved my life. And the president's kind of a bit like, oh, he did fire a gun in a public place and he shot a guy's toe off, but she's like, I don't care about that. Even when I'm gone, I want him looked after. He's a good man. So through it all, Doug got what he wanted. He's gonna be looked after. He doesn't have to look after the president's dogs. He's got Tess on side. There's like kind of like this love and friendship that has blossomed between them. At first they're at loggerheads, but over time, I think it was over them drinks, and they kind of had I don't know, I found at times their relationship to be a bit weird. It kind of seemed like, is it slightly sexual? Is there like a sexual tension going on? I'm not quite sure. And then on the way out, there is a hospital porter with a wheelchair and says to Tess, you have to get in. And she's like, no. You see that she hasn't changed. She's still going to argue with people of authority. and the guy's saying, but it's what's the word? It's protocol. You have to do it, and it's very, very similar to the way that Doug was. And Doug says, "Come on, like, does she have to? Like, are the rules that really stringent?" But then says to Tess, "Get your goddamn ass in the chair. We've got to wheel you out of here." And she's then wheeled out to a hero's welcome. All the townsfolk are there. They're all happy. Doug's happy. He's in tow. He's got the glass on. He's got that classic, shady, Secret Service guy look to him. That is another thing I like this whole the look. He's just a run-of-the-mill early 90s Secret Service guy look. And yeah, it's a great one. It's not some of the best looks that Cage has had, but it's definitely up there. And then that's the end of the film. So, yeah, as I said, I took a day or so, I took a day to kind of let this one sit with me, and, I don't know, I didn't really enjoy this one. This didn't really have me gripped, like, I don't know, I expected there to be a bit more action as opposed to a kind of, like, almost drama, like with elements of comedy about these two characters being at loggerheads. I expected a bit more, like, I don't know, I thought maybe she would get kidnapped a lot earlier on in the film or something like that, and it would kind of be a bit more of a comedy caper of him trying to get her back or something like that. Or I don't know, I didn't know what to expect, but I kind of wasn't expecting what we got with this one. But bearing that in mind, it's enough about what I had to think about the film. Let's have a little look what the internet has to say. The scoring systems we are getting today are, we will be looking at IMDb, Roger Ebert, and Rotten Tomatoes. So, as following: IMDb 6.2 out of 10. Roger Ebert 3.5 out of 4, sorry about that, and Rotten Tomatoes 59. This seems like it's got fairly good scores. Obviously not the best, it's probably like an average around that 60% mark if it was a percentage. I don't know, like, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as that. Like, again, I don't think this is my kind of film. There's a lot of films in this that haven't been my kind of film, but I still enjoyed. This one, I didn't enjoy that much. I don't feel like it was classic Cage, even though we had traces of him. As I said, in any film you could put this guy in, he probably would still have moments of freaking out, and that's great. I love a good Cage freak out. But this one, I don't know, it was kind of boring. If I'm honest, it was like, I don't know, I know that coming up we have, like, yeah, when we get into the 20s, things get crazy. We've got a run of crazy films. But next week's episode might just be a checking in episode. Yeah, it probably is, but I might get a couple of interviews listening next week. There might be something fun next week. It might be an extended checking in episode. I will, like I did after the first 10 episodes, I'm going to do another IQ test to see if I've got dumber whilst this has gone on, or if my intelligence has increased by some miraculous chance. But yeah, that'll be next week's episode, and I might have an interview with someone cool, so tune into that one. And the best way you can obviously keep up to date with the podcast is just subscribing on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to call them. Just type in the Caged In Podcast. I imagine a lot of you listening now probably already doing that, but you can also, there's the social medias, it's all at Caged In Pod on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. yeah, and I always put up on those when episodes gone live. And obviously, if you're subscribed on any of the podcasting platforms, they'll just come automatically onto your feed, and you'll be able to listen. Obviously, any ideas you guys have about these films, shout me out on any of those social medias, or you can hit me up on email, which is cagedinpod@gmail.com. Yeah, write reviews on Facebook, on iTunes as well. That's always fucking great. And then the next film we'll be covering on the podcast will be It Could Happen to You, also from 1994. I don't have a guest for that one yet, but I might do, so definitely check out that one. That might be next week's episode, or that might be the following episode. But until then, guys, as always, I've been your host, Petros Patsilivus. I've been caged in. You've been rad. Bye.